Let me ask you something. Imagine you spent years in prison, fighting against one of the most brutal systems of racial oppression the modern world had ever seen. Imagine you survived. Imagine your country finally wins its freedom. And then imagine that same country, the one you suffered for, hands you the highest office in the land, the presidency, the most powerful position in all of South Africa. What do you do with it? Most people would say, you serve. You protect what so many people died to build. You honor the struggle. Jacob Zuma had all of that. The history, the sacrifice, the trust of an entire nation. And what did he do with it? He looted it, quietly, systematically, brazenly, for 9 solid years. This is that story.
I have therefore come to the decision to resign as President of the Republic with immediate effect.
To understand Zuma, you first need to understand South Africa, because this is not just any country. This is the country that produced Nelson Mandela, the country that defeated apartheid, one of the most dehumanizing systems of racial separation and oppression the world has ever seen. Black South Africans couldn't vote, couldn't live where they wanted, couldn't walk freely in their own country, couldn't sit on certain benches, couldn't use certain bedrooms. All of it enforced by law, by violence, by a state that treated its own majority population as subhuman. And in 1994, after decades of struggle, the system finally collapsed. Nelson Mandela walked out of prison, became president, and the world watched in disbelief and admiration. South Africa had pulled off something almost miraculous, a peaceful transition, a rainbow nation, a new beginning. That is the country Jacob Zuma inherited. Zuma was born in 1942 in a small rural village in KwaZulu-Natal. He grew up poor. He never went to school, not a single day of formal education. But he was sharp, politically sharp in a way that formal education doesn't always produce. He joined the African National Congress, the ANC, as a teenager, the same movement that Mandela led. He was arrested, sent to Robben Island, the same prison where Mandela spent 27 years. Zuma spent 10 years there, and when he came out, he kept fighting. He went into exile, worked in the underground resistance, built relationships across the ANC network. By the time apartheid fell, Zuma was a respected figure inside the movement, a man who had paid his dues, a man the struggle had shaped, or so did everyone believe. He rose steadily through post-apartheid politics, deputy president under Thabo Mbeki, a powerful position in a powerful country. But in 2005, something happened that should have ended his political career entirely. His financial advisor, a man named Schabir Shaik, was convicted of corruption, specifically for bribing Zuma. Shaik went to prison, and Zuma was fired as deputy president. Most political careers don't survive that. Zuma's did, because inside the ANC, he had built something more valuable than a clean record. He had built loyalty, a network of people who owed him, people who believed he was being persecuted, people who rallied around him. And in 2009, despite facing his own corruption charges, Jacob Zuma became president of South Africa. Now, let me explain something important here, because this is the part that makes South Africa's story so painful. Zuma didn't steal alone. He didn't just put his hand in the till and walk away. He built a system, a carefully constructed network of corruption so deep and so wide that it came to be known by a specific name: state capture. The idea was simple but devastating. Instead of just stealing from the government, you capture the government itself. You put your people in every key position, every state-owned company, every regulatory body, every institution that is supposed to hold power accountable. And then you use all of this position to direct money towards yourself and your allies. Not in small amounts, in billions. At the center of Zuma's state capture network was a family called the Guptas, 3 brothers from India who had immigrated to South Africa and who built an extraordinary relationship with Zuma. They were so close to the presidency that they reportedly had influence over cabinet appointments. Not advising, not lobbying, actually deciding who become a minister. A private family with no elected position, no mandate from the people, sitting in a house in Johannesburg and helping decide who ran South Africa's government. State-owned companies became cash machines for this network. Eskom, the electricity company, Transnet, the freight and logistics company, the South African Revenue Service. Contracts were manipulated, appointments were rigged, billions of rands moved through a system designed to enrich a small circle of people. Why ordinary South Africans got power cuts, unemployment and crumbling services. And the power cuts were real. Why Zuma and his network were looting Eskom, South Africans were sitting in the dark. Scheduled blackouts called load shedding became a daily reality. Businesses couldn't operate, food spoiled in refrigerators, students studied by candlelight, hospitals ran on generators, all because the electricity company had been so thoroughly looted that it couldn't maintain the basic infrastructure needed to keep the lights on. That is what state capture actually looks like on the ground, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. Darkness. And through all of it, Zuma performed. He was charming, he was funny, he laughed easily, he sang at rallies, he connected with ordinary people in a way that many politicians can't, and he used that connection as a shield. Every time corruption allegations surfaced, he played the victim. He said he was being targeted by white monopoly capital, by political enemies, by foreign forces trying to destabilize a black-led government. And because the wounds of apartheid were still raw, the distrust of white institutions was completely understandable. Some people believed him. That is what made Zuma so dangerous. He weaponized legitimate grievance. He took the real pain of South Africa's past and used it to protect himself from accountability in the present. But the evidence kept piling up. Court cases, investigations, journalists, the Gupta emails, a massive leak of internal communications exposed the state capture network in extraordinary detail. Names, amounts, conversations. It became impossible to deny, and slowly, even inside the ANC, the mood began to shift. By 2018, the pressure had become unbearable. Cyril Ramaphosa, Zuma's own deputy, had been building support within the party, and in February 2018, the ANC recalled Zuma. He was forced to resign. He gave a rambling late-night address to the nation, said he disagreed with the decision, said he had done nothing wrong, and then he was gone. But the damage was not gone. 9 years of state capture had hollowed out South Africa's institutions. The revenue service that had been undermined couldn't collect taxes efficiently. The electricity company that had been looted couldn't keep the lights on. The economy that had been stagnating under the weight of corruption and uncertainty was in deep trouble. South Africa, the most industrialized economy on the African continent, was growing at a fraction of its own potential. Unemployment was catastrophic. Young people with education and ambition couldn't find work. And the Rainbow Nation that inspired the world in 1994 felt like a distant memory. In 2021, Zuma was sentenced to prison for contempt of court. He briefly went to jail, then was released on medical grounds. Then the legal battles continued. He never truly faced full accountability for the years of state capture. The Gupta brothers fled the country. The billions that were stolen, most of it was never recovered. So here is what I want you to take away from this story. South Africa did not fail because it lacked resources. It did not fail because its people lacked talent or resilience. It failed during those 9 years because the man at the top made a choice. Every single day he was in office, Zuma made a choice to serve himself instead of his country, to protect his network instead of his people, to weaponize the past instead of building the future. South Africa gave Jacob Zuma everything: the presidency, the trust, the mandate of a people who had suffered and survived. And he gave them back corruption, darkness, and the hole so deep, the country is still climbing out of it. If the story made you think, there are more like it on this channel. Real history broken down simply. Subscribe and don't miss the next one.